The latest trailer for Tears of the Kingdom has dropped, and opinions online are somewhat mixed about it. In just over 2 minutes, we learned surprisingly little about the new game, at least if you take a look at the surface. Hiding in plain sight are tons of minute details that reveal new gameplay elements, enemies, and huge changes to Hyrule that haven't been highlighted. So today we're going to break down everything we noticed in Tears of the Kingdom's second official trailer. The trailer opens on this shot, showing Death Mountain off in the distance during a lightning storm. It's immediately apparent that something is very wrong in Goron City, as what appears to be malice can be seen billowing from Death Mountain's peak. Just 2 seconds later, we see a wide shot with towers visible. These towers are visible in multiple different shots throughout the trailer. Could these be a means of traveling underground? Bokoblins are seen mining a few times, but what are they mining for? Underground locations appear to be something new in Tears of the Kingdom, and we'll see a few later on in the trailer. Could these be a sort of base camp for Bokoblins? In the middle of the shot we see a curious glowing outline of sorts. The outline appears to be the same glowing art we saw in the first trailer near the end, seen from a different angle. At the 20-second mark we get a glimpse of Hyrule from above the clouds. This particular platform appears to be hovering west of Tabantha Tower, just above the Gisa crater. Interestingly, the tower can't be seen from this angle, and shrines can't be seen anywhere in the trailer. Is it possible Ganondorf destroys them at the beginning of the game, altering the Hylian landscape in the process? Or did shrines and towers float off to become islands in the sky? The next shot reveals Bokoblins mining underground. If you look in the upper left corner of the shot, you'll see stalactites, indicating a stone ceiling above, and what appears to be the root structure of a tree in the middle of the mine. The stone in the foreground the Bokoblins are mining appears to bear some Zonai markings similar to those found on vehicles later in the trailer. Could Ganondorf's forces be trying to unearth ancient technology to use in the battle against Link, similarly to how the Guardians and Divine Beasts were used against him in the battle that led to him being placed in the Shrine of Resurrection? Once we leave the mine, we get a wide shot of Lake Hylia, showing the Bridge of Hylia in more or less the same shape it was in Breath of the Wild. We can see Hyrule Castle off in the distance with malice coming out from underneath it like flame, and even further off to the right we can get a clearer look at the malice coming off of the top of Death Mountain. The two effects look similar enough that I'm thinking a significant boss battle is going to take place at Death Mountain this time around. And speaking of boss battles, it would appear a long-lost boss from Zelda is making a return. Guarding the Bridge of Hylia all the way on the right of the shot is a three-headed dragon. This has to be Gleeok, the three-headed dragon from the original Legend of Zelda on the NES. Gleeok most recently appeared in Phantom Hourglass with only 2 heads, but it appears they're reverting to its original design for its reappearance. From Lake Hylia, we head to Hateno Village. This shot comes from behind the ancient tech laboratory. At first glance, we see a green spiral similar to the one from the teaser trailer. We'll end up seeing a lot more of these as well, but what exactly is their significance? The spot this spiral is in was home to a tree previously, meaning it's not replacing a major landmark like a shrine. Could these be quick travel for Link to return to the sky without a vehicle? In the last trailer, as Link descended from the sky, one of those spirals was visible near where he was set to land. Curiously, the huge telescope from the ancient tech lab is also missing. Did it get stolen by Ganondorf's forces, or was this just a design decision? The fact that the village itself appears not to be in ruins leads me to believe Hateno hasn't yet met with a terrible fate. For the next few seconds, nothing too noteworthy happens. Link observes the blood moon rising from indoors, a rock formation crumbles, and some damage is done to Hyrule Castle. Then we get a sweeping shot of the Great Plateau, and we can see more glowing art etched into a hillside just before Malice hits a group of Bokoblins that appear to have descended from the sky. You can see them slowly float to the ground just before the Malice hits them, and when it does, the Malice briefly takes on the shape of the Bokoblin, complete with glowing blue eyes, and it seems to drive them mad. Before we dwell on that too long, however, we have some more new enemies. On the right, we see a huge pig-like enemy that, as far as I can tell, is completely new to the Zelda series. And right in front of the camera, we get our first look at a Re-Dead. As the camera pans, we can see its exposed spine and ribs and what appears to be a creepy vertical mouth. Ugh. At 1 minute in, roughly the halfway point, we see Link in a room surrounded by guardian legs, and one of them is holding an object that appears to be a spool of wire of some sort. The wire from the spool is extending below the wooden platform, indicating it's tethered to something underneath. Looking out underneath the curtains, it appears Link is pretty high up. Could this be the top of one of the towers spotted in multiple places throughout the trailer? If so, could these help Link get underground to explore what the bokoblins are mining for? This room appears to have been made by the Sheikah, and the Sheikah text on the ground surrounding Link says transport, meaning this is definitely designed to take him somewhere. Going forward a little bit, we see Link being chased by a Hinox, and two things are notable here. First, Link appears to be in a cave, lending further credence to the idea that we'll spend a significant amount of time underground in Tears of the Kingdom. Perhaps Ganondorf has been amassing a literal underground army during the events of Breath of the Wild. Could enemies be erupting from underneath Hyrule's surface to attack Link? Secondly, we have the green orb around the Hinox's neck. A Hinox having a key item around its neck would be nothing new. Could this possibly help power up Link's new abilities? As Link is running around, we also catch a brief glimpse of a set of containers on Link's hip that looks similar to the spirit vessel from Skyward Sword. There appears to be room for about 8 of these containers, though Link appears to have only 4, and each of the 4 glows the same color as Link's arm when he uses his abilities. It seems like Link will use charges to activate his new powers. Given how often they appear to be needed based on what we've seen, I imagine these charges refill on their own over time. At about 1 minute and 7 seconds, we see another shot of the new dragon monster from earlier in the trailer, though what's interesting is that it's helping to fly a bokoblin around. In addition to that, the bokoblin appears to be holding a one-handed stone axe, meaning Link will likely have the option to use this new weapon at some point. Just a few seconds later, Link is seen doing battle with a golem. This golem in particular is interesting because it appears to be powered by an energy similar to that Link uses. In addition to this, the green etchings and overall design of the blocks used to create the golem look like the architecture found in the Zonai ruins. The golem also has a bright green spot on the underside of its torso. Could defeating these golems increase Link's energy capacity for his newfound powers? Following this, we get our closest look at Ganondorf's desiccated zombie corpse yet. The black and red energy pouring from him reminds me of Demise, but beyond that, there aren't any really hidden details I can spot. We cut to Link standing on a platform in the sky where we can see several different floating islands, indicating we'll be traveling to the sky from multiple different locations on the map. One of them even appears to go so high vertically that we can't see the top of it. On the ground below, we can see one of the towers positioned directly beneath a floating island, but that seems to be more of a coincidence than anything. As Link jumps off and the camera rotates behind him, we get a wide view of Hyrule. We briefly see one of the towers that has been popping up all over the trailer in the upper right, and a red pit of malice. As the camera comes around, it looks like that pit of malice may be where Hateno Tower once stood, confirming that they've been destroyed. From this distance, shrines should be visible as well, but none are spotted. Curiously, there seems to be nothing showing they were destroyed like Hateno Tower. Could they have retreated underground? We can also see a familiar cube floating on the far right of the map. It appears to be floating in the same location as the North Lome Labyrinth, which hosted a shrine in the original Breath of the Wild, which for those who don't remember was one of the game's giant cube mazes. It seems like the whole labyrinth has been elevated into the sky. Have the other two met the same fate, or have they perhaps gone underground? In the next shot, we see Link running by Nabi Lake with a giant piece of Zonai artwork in the background. This appears to be the same glowing art shown earlier in the trailer. We also see an abandoned bokoblin lookout down below. Could these areas be protected from Ganondorf's malice? To the far left, we see another one of those towers, though this one doesn't have light pouring out from underneath it. Does that mean these underground passages might be something Link can clear, similarly to how shrines were handled in Breath of the Wild? Perhaps clearing one collapses the mine or tunnel and makes it stop shining. Finally, to the lower left, there's a stone structure coming out of the lake with a spiraling structure built around it. This is interesting for two reasons. The scaffolding surrounding the structure is new. It's an old bokoblin base that they seem to have upgraded. Could this be because they've formed another mining encampment, or perhaps there's an entrance to an underground cave inside? Additionally, from this angle you should be able to see both the Wasteland Tower and Divine Beast Va Naboris in the distance, seemingly confirming the Divine Beasts have been destroyed. In the next shot, we see Link fighting one of the dragon enemies from the beginning of the trailer. If you look closely, Link draws a regular arrow, then by using his arm he creates the ball-like attachment on its end. At the instant it appears, Link's hand begins glowing. It appears this skill automatically targets an enemy's weak point, which we can see as the arrow takes an unexpected trajectory and flies right into the enemy's mouth. Next, we see Link using his shield to grind between rails in place of a minecart, where he happens upon a cliffside mining encampment. We can see 2 bokoblins with claymores waiting for Link, along with a moblin keeping watch on a tower. But if you look closely, you'll see what appears to be a propeller component on the right, and in the back there's a curious rock with a red streak through it sitting next to another propeller component. Could the purpose of these areas be for Link to pick up supplies to use to create vehicles? Speaking of vehicles, the next shot shows Link seemingly adding a propeller to a floating chunk of Hyrule, meaning Link will play sort of an active role in keeping the floating islands afloat. It also seems that Link has to get the parts he uses out of this arrow-shaped hatch in the floor. Does that mean we have to find and use a mechanism to get parts from the surface to the sky, similarly how Scrapper helped Link in Skyward Sword? And just like that, we're back underground. This time we see Link using some type of bomb launcher against a stone talus. Again, we can see stalactites everywhere and a huge cache of luminous stones hanging from the ceiling. This weapon doesn't appear to use Link's magical abilities for his arm, as it doesn't glow when he uses it. The design, however, bears Zonai markings, not unlike the flamethrower type weapon we saw in the last trailer. At about 1 minute and 32 seconds, we see an unknown character extending her hand to Link. This character's outfit looks somewhat similar to Zelda when using Hylia's power, and the design of the ornamental piece covering their torso feels reminiscent of the ethereal part of the Master Sword from Tears of the Kingdom's logo. This is almost certainly a manifestation of the goddess Hylia or whoever granted Link his new powers. In the next shot, we see Link looking at his arm, but it's clear this isn't when he first gets it, as we can see he's wearing a repaired champion's tunic and sporting new armor. This scene feels like Link just unlocked a new power for his arm, or this could possibly be following a conversation he had with the entity that gave him this arm. Then we cut to Link using his new arm with a magnesis-like ability to fish a tire out of the muck in what appears to be the Great Plateau. You can see a chest just out of reach, and that muck I mentioned earlier looks like the quicksand-like substance you could find in certain spots in Breath of the Wild. The question I now have, however, is will we have a power similar to Cryonis to be able to navigate these treacherous spots? Also, if this is in fact the Great Plateau, the presence of Malice in the back left is also noteworthy, as the plateau was a safe spot for Link in the original game. As we cut away, we can see our clearest view of Death Mountain yet off in the distance, and we can see the tire Link fished out and used as part of this vehicle. The front wheel hubs appear to be 2 Zonai dragon heads, and it appears as though a green substance is holding the whole thing together. You can see where the wheels and headlights attach to the body of the vehicle, as well as where the roof attaches in the back. Many elements of the vehicle seem to come straight from the Zonai dragon. Even the headlights are remarkably similar to the white cones perched atop the enemy in the previous trailer. That substance indicates you can likely build improvised vehicles. But let's get back to the vehicle on screen. The tank in the back of it appears to be full of whatever Link is carrying on his hip throughout the trailer, and coincidentally, the vials on his hip, though still present, are empty. Does this mean Link has to fuel vehicles with the same energy source he uses for his arm's powers? It looks that way. However, let's rewind a moment to the stone Talos encounter from earlier in the trailer. Does the symbol on the bomb launcher look familiar? It's the same symbol found on many elements of the Zonai dragon vehicle. Perhaps this green symbol signifies ancient Zonai technology, and more importantly that the item or vehicle can be crafted specifically by the player. And in that case, does that mean weapon crafting is also in the game? In a previous trailer, Link also bared a flamethrower. Neither a bomb launcher nor a flamethrower are typical items you'd find lying around. It's possible these are just new rune-like abilities, however there's a strong possibility we'll be able to craft weapons that have never been seen in Hyrule before with far more mystical properties. In the next shot, we see another example of a vehicle built by Link. This time, it's a hot air balloon, and though we can't see its fuel source, we can see that it was put together with that same green substance we saw all over the car. And finally, as if to further drive the point home, we see a makeshift airship with 4 of the propellers we spotted at the Bokoblin mine camp earlier, all glued on with the same green stuff. If you look closely, you can also see the steering instrument used on the car is in use on the flying platform as well. All around Link, we can see various islands in the sky, including a gigantic orb. What's most interesting is the islands that appear to have strands connecting them to the surface. In the first trailer, we saw Link use similar strands to swim up and pop through the floor of these floating islands. Could these be the islands that we saw in that first trailer? In the penultimate shot of the trailer, we see Link riding a horse through Hyrule Field. Two malice-infected structures are off to the left, with what appears to be a Hylian encampment nearby and a cube in the distance. Beyond that, we see two of the ubiquitous towers we've spotted throughout the trailer. With the amount of these we've seen, I feel certain these are either passages to the underground or Tears of the Kingdom's version of shrines. As the camera zooms away from Link and further into the background, we can spot some interesting details. First, we can see the malice appears to be coming out of the ground. Could this be a spawn point for enemies to emerge from underground? In the sky, we can see a cube falling with a trail of green energy behind it. We've seen Link ride a similar structure that appeared to have the flow of time reversed around it, and previous trailers have shown us Link has the ability to reverse time for certain objects. This is definitely another way for Link to return to the sky in the absence of a vehicle. As the camera pulls out even further, we can see that the cube in the distance has a green energy spot on it, similar to the one found on the golem earlier in the trailer. Could this be another enemy that Link has to face? This is where we reach the final shot of the trailer, and boy does it have something in store for us. In the first frame, we see Link is already hurt and the Master Sword has already taken a beating. The sword is covered in malice, and you can see Link's arm is severely damaged as well, as it's already black and the malice on his hand is still glowing. As more malice erupts from Ganondorf's body, it appears to be going for Link, but then we see Link throw the Master Sword to the ground, revealing the full extent of his injuries. His arm appears to be more decayed than burnt. Finally, we hear Zelda plead with someone to lend Link their power. I feel this almost has to be the goddess Hylia, but what throws me off is the inconsistencies between this trailer and the teaser from E3 2019. Looking at both side by side, it feels like they have to have reworked this scene somewhat. Otherwise, I can't figure out how this scene and the E3 2019 trailer fit together. My pet theory is that Zelda somehow calls on Hylia's power and grants it to Link, becoming part of him in the process. This would explain why Link suddenly has the knowledge to revive lost technology and create vehicles the likes of which haven't been seen in the Zelda universe. If Link has access to the Triforce of Courage and the Triforce of Wisdom, he may have access to knowledge that has long been forgotten. Although it's also possible that Ganondorf only has this surge of power because he now possesses the Triforce of Courage in addition to power. After all, the Triforce always appears on Link's dominant hand, and Link has been a righty in 3D since Skyward Sword, the same hand that has been transformed in Tears of the Kingdom. Would the Triforce have survived the corruption, or does Link need these powers due to losing the Triforce? There's still many directions the story could take. Either way, that's about all I've got for you for the latest Tears of the Kingdom trailer. Let me know what you think in the comments. I want to hear your theories. And either way, we don't have long to wait until we figure it out. We're less than 3 months away. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Whoa, you made it to the end of my first analysis video. Thank you so much. We couldn't do this without a group effort. Thanks to Daniel and John for contributing their ideas, and thank you so much to Brandon for helping edit this thing together. I really couldn't have done it alone. And speaking of not doing this alone, we couldn't do this without the support of all of our patrons. If you want to support us and help us make more videos like these, head over to patreon.com/gvgaming to find out how you can join the team.